Howdy gamers, Old Gamer Guy here. Welcome to another Ghost Recon Breakpoint video. Judging by the reaction on the internet, I am having much more fun with this game than a lot of people are, but that is not the point of this video. The point of this video is that I am messing around with settings and trying to set my options in a way that will make the game most fun for me. And there are a lot of settings you can change, but right here what I'm doing is testing the enemy awareness on different difficulty levels. This is on the arcade difficulty level, and you can see I've marked an enemy here, and I'm approaching, and right about the 65 meter mark is where he sort of becomes semi-aware of me. It's not always 65 meters, but it's pretty close. And obviously they have to be looking generally at you for this to work. But what I thought would happen is that maybe at the higher difficulty levels that maybe they would become aware of you from a longer distance away, but that didn't turn out to be the case. Here I am on regular, and he's not looking at me right now, so I'm pretty close there. But if I go over here, he sees me. Again, it's at about 65 meters, give or take. Pretty close. Now here I am on advanced, and you'll notice that the AI, the type of AI has changed here. In those first two examples, the AI was a rifleman. Now it is a breacher. They have different types of weapons, I believe. But still, even on advanced, their awareness distance is about 65 meters. Now I'm on extreme, and the AI is a heavy. So I don't know if that's random or if that's definitely tied to the difficulty levels, but I noticed that and thought it was kind of interesting. But once again, about 65 meters is where he starts to become aware. So I think the awareness meter fills up faster. He's moving there so he doesn't see me, but I think the awareness meter will fill up faster on the higher difficulty levels, and I'm pretty sure that the enemies are more accurate with their shooting on higher levels. But their awareness distance stays about the same no matter what difficulty you're on. But difficulty is only one way that you can alter your game experience with Breakpoint. And I'm not even sure the difficulty is the most impactful way you can change things. But what we're going to take a look at now is the HUD. There are, by default, there are a bunch of different elements of information on your HUD, and then if you go to the light type of HUD, you have a little bit less information, and then if you go to extreme, you have even less, and then with no HUD, there is nothing on your screen. Custom means you can change a bunch of settings individually, and I'm going to show that here in a second, but on the right side there you can kind of get a rough idea of what each type of HUD setting will show you on your screen. But here are all the settings you can change. I'm not going to go through all of these things individually, but you can turn things off, you can make things appear dynamically, you can have them on your screen all the time, you can make certain elements smaller, But probably one of the most impactful things you can do is to turn off detection clouds. If you go from default to the light HUD setting, detection clouds are automatically turned off. If you played Wildlands, you know what these things are, but if you didn't, I'll go ahead and describe it. There in the lower right hand corner, you can see my mini map, and you can see those red areas on the mini map. I always thought of them as red blobs, but apparently they are red clouds. I didn't know that. But basically what they're telling you is that there are enemies in the vicinity. You don't know exactly where they are, but as you go around and you mark enemies, those red clouds will disappear from your mini-map, and you will get those white markers, and you'll be able to see exactly where the enemies are, and that's obviously very useful. I was just seen by that guy, obviously. This is on the normal difficulty right here. And now you can see around the mini-map there's a red line, and that means that the AI are on their highest level of alertness.
Stay sharp, boys. Kill everything.
This guy followed me out here, which was probably a stupid thing to do. He ran out here all by himself. But once you break line of sight, eventually you go from a red alert level to a yellow alert level, and that means that they are searching for you. They don't know where you are, but they're searching. And then eventually it goes back to white. Now this is on the extreme difficulty level here, and I'm about to show you a comparison of these clips. I did the best I could do to line them up. They're not exactly lined up, but you can see what I'm talking about here. The alert meter, I tried to line them up to start the alert meter at the same time, but you could tell that the one on the right, the meter filled up a lot faster. So now I'm back in a yellow alert level. I didn't show this, but I timed it on both regular and extreme, and it was about the same amount of time to go from a yellow alert level to a white alert level. So that, I think, is about the same for both difficulties. But here is one of the more important aspects of the HUD. I'm obviously flying my drone around, and I'm able to mark enemies, and I'm able to mark where intel is, and you can see, like, if there's a weapons crate, you can see that, health items, ammo, things like that, explosives. You can see all those things, and obviously that's very useful. This is just a small outpost here. But if I go into my settings, after I've marked all those things, I'm going into my settings and I'm turning the HUD off. All of that disappears. So with no HUD, you can't mark enemies, and you can't mark where intel is and weapons crates and all that. But one of the more important things is that you won't get any kind of a visual or audio cue to tell you that enemies are looking at you.
Eyes on a target.
So I couldn't tell there that they were kind of zeroing in on me, looking at me. And obviously I have no mini map anymore to show, you know, the alert level. This is on extreme, by the way. And once again, this guy has followed me out here. And another thing you can see is that you have no crosshairs with no HUD. So unless you go into the settings and turn on crosshairs individually, you probably are going to be forced to use first-person view when you're shooting. But the enemies are pursuing me here. You'll be able to see another thing about extreme difficulty here in a second. Just to show you, in some games, a higher difficulty would mean higher enemy hit points. But here goes a heavy right there, and I took him out in 2 shots. So the higher difficulty level does not mean the enemies have more hit points, but I do believe they are more accurate in their shooting. And like I showed you, the detection meter fills up faster, I think. I didn't do that experiment over and over again, so my findings are non-scientific, but that's what it looks like to me anyway. So here's another aspect of the no HUD thing, is that when I run over these dead bodies, you'll be able to hear a sound. So you can tell I'm picking something up, but it will not appear on the screen, so you don't really know what it is. That was probably some ammo, and I don't know what that second little sound was. But remember, I was marking locations of intel and ammo locations, medical supplies, all that stuff, and now I can see none of that. And so this is this is obviously a relatively small outpost here, but even though I saw where those things were before I turned my HUD off, I have a hard time finding where the intel was. I know it's in this general area, but I can't remember exactly where it was. So with the HUD off, unless you turn certain things on individually and make a custom setting, you'll kind of have to walk up to everything and try to interact with it and see if it's intel or if it's something you can open or whatever. So it depends on how you want to play. I can see how having no HUD at all would be very immersive and fun with a group, and coordinating tactics and having to really keep track of where enemies are because you can't mark them and all that stuff. But for me, at least when I'm playing solo, I think I'm going to stick with the light HUD setting. And you can see now that I turn the HUD back on, I think all of those things that I picked up recently are now appearing on the screen there. I don't know if that's intended or not. But here's the intel over here. So I think I will be playing this game on the extreme difficulty level. And then right now I'm going to play on the light HUD setting. I might experiment with extreme or custom, but I don't think I'll mess around with playing with no HUD at all, because look at the size of this location here. It's obviously much bigger than what I showed you earlier in the video, and imagine just having to walk around and attempt to interact with everything that looks like it might be intel, or walk up to every box and try to open it. I would rather not play that way. But I do like having those enemy location clouds turned off. That's how I played Wildlands. To me, that's a lot more fun because you have to be careful. Also, enemy vehicles will not automatically show up. You can see that I'm right next to a road, but on the mini-map, this car is not showing up on that mini-map. So you can fly your drone around and you can mark enemies that are outside but I won't know who's in these buildings unless I go and clear them myself, and I like that. But I also like being able to see where weapons crates are and other things that I might want to interact with. So it really comes down to how you want to play the game. There are some very cool videos on YouTube of groups playing this game with no HUD, and they're being very tactical, and they're communicating, and it's obviously a lot tougher if you can't mark the enemies and know where they are exactly. But yeah, this game is getting a lot of negative response online, and in some ways I can see why, but to me it reminds me of Metal Gear, playing a game like Metal Gear cooperatively, and to me that's very cool. Obviously the story is not going to be like Metal Gear. There are microtransactions, but I'm not going to buy any of that stuff, so to me it doesn't affect me, but I can see why people would complain about it. So I'm not judging all that. Just saying I like the game, but I think that'll about do it for this Breakpoint video. Hopefully this was entertaining or informative or both. But for now, thanks very much for watching.